Hi, welcome to this presentation on social media for networking. My name is Craig Bideman. I'm the Health and Wellness Promotion Specialist at UMass Boston, and I'm about to dig right in. So let's go for it. That's me. I'm the guy with all the tattoos. I'm the Health and Wellness Promotion Specialist on campus. I have a Master's of Higher Education Administration from UMass Amherst. I have two bachelors, one in English and one in Education from Morgan State University. I got a minor in creative writing. I research social media stuff, and I also collect vinyl records and tattoos. I also do CrossFit and I run a bunch. That's my life. That's what I do. That is how I live my life. Those are the things that I do. And now we're gonna jump right in. So I have a few questions. Granted, you're not able to respond, but that's fine. I'm just gonna pose some things. So why do you use social media? Think about that. Think about why you use it. What's it important for you? Do you use it to connect with friends, to connect with family, to continue um, um, trying to learn new things about people, learn new things about the world? What is your approach to using social media? How often do you go online? How do you use it? Are you on your phone? Are you on a computer? What does that look like? Are you when are you your when are you actually like going online? Is it mostly in the morning? Is it in the evening? Is it during the day? What works best for you? When do you prefer to be online? Those are the kinds of questions that I want you thinking about, especially during this presentation, because I'm going to try to dig into a little bit about how you could be using it to be more successful in your life and in your professional development as well. I'm going to share a bunch of my stories, and hopefully those are helpful as well. So professional development and networking are important for social media because a lot of folks don't necessarily think about them in that way. Think about using their social media for professional development, but at the end of the day, you can use really anything for professional development if you think about it well enough. And I had a hard time conceptualizing how to use my social media to connect with folks until I got to graduate school, and that's where I really learned the value of utilizing it to my career's benefit. And I'll dig into that into a second. But this whole presentation is actually going to crux on you having some sort of motivation or determination to make sure that you want to have a social media uh, presence that is um, that is for your own professional development rather than just for personal use. So you can separate the two, you can have them have a synergistic relationship, or you can have two completely different sets of realities that you put out into the world. One that you connect with just your friends, family, and then one that you just connect with professional world. I'm going to try to talk about how you can make them all just one if you think about it a little bit smartly. So the key to social media is putting yourself out there. At the end of the day, that's really what social media is. And to be able to develop your traits in your professional development, you kind of have to do the same. You need to be putting yourself out there into the world so that folks can actually learn about who you are and what you do and what you have to offer. So if you're wanting to use your social media in this way, you have to be a little bit more um, outwardly facing. For my introverted folks, this might be a little bit of a challenge because it's not necessarily in your nature to want to be in front of everyone doing all of the things all the time. But for my extroverted folks like myself, it can be a little bit easier, but at the same time, we also have to sometimes um, make sure that we're not being too much or too out there with some of our ideas or some of our posts and what we're sharing. So there's a good balance to be struck in both ways, but just making sure that you are being smart about what you put out there and how you put yourself out there is key. Digital identity development is a newer way of developing your identity, I suppose to say. It is it is a way that we are delineating or defining how people exist in digital spaces. Because for the longest time, we've had the in-person identity or the personal identity, and now we have how we show up online as our development, as a developmental characteristic as well. So it's a much different realm that we are existing in right now than maybe 20 years ago. Definitely much different than like 30 years ago, but only slightly within the last 10 years have things really ramped up. So throughout the course of my life, I'm almost 33. Throughout the course of my life, I've seen a lot of things change in the way that identities are persisting in person and online. I watched MySpace change the world, and then I was an early adapter to Facebook as well. So I was able to watch how these social media sites ended up influencing so many parts of our reality. So my hope is that we're able to learn a little bit from this and actually figure out what we look like online compared to how we look like in real life in person. So just making sure that by the end of this presentation, you have an understanding of what it means to share your life online and what it means to be someone who shares their identity in that space as well. Now, in order to grow your followership or your network online through social media for your professional development specifically, it's going to take three things. It's going to take dedication, investment, and patience. All of this is not easy to do. It's not very easy to achieve everything that you're wanting to achieve overnight. Just making sure that if you are trying to grow your followership, it's going to take some time. Unless you are able to pay to get some followers, which some people do, or if you're able to go viral in some ways super quick, then more power to you. Hell yeah. But ultimately, some folks have to work a little bit harder at it. And I am that kind of person. During graduate school, I had a good conversation with someone in our career space on campus at UMass Amherst who told me about how to harness some of my energy in an online space. And I decided to dedicate myself to once a week taking an hour to just follow people that are in my field on Twitter specifically, and then join a couple Facebook groups as well, so that I could connect with folks that way. And I just began engaging. I started investing more and more of my time and became a little bit more patient as I connected with new folks and brought those people into my life. And I found that I was able to create a very good relationship with a lot of folks by just putting myself out there and just trying to be an interesting member of the community, and also just being able to be myself in that space, because I wanted to be as authentic as possible. I wanted my digital identity to match my personal identity, so I didn't feel like I had to like switch gears in any way or surprise people when they finally met me in person. I wanted them to meet me and be like, oh yeah, you are this person that you seem to be online. That's how I wanted it to be. I don't know why it just went to that. Let's go to the next thing. Where is it going? There it goes. I don't know why I did that. Sorry. So what you shouldn't do, I want you to dig into understanding how there are a lot of things that we have to be careful about when we put things online. Do not dare your dirty laundry online. I know that we probably have some friends who do this from time to time, who share a little bit too much, share a little bit too much of their personal private life stuff, or take personal private grievances and put them in public. A lot of that stuff can be pretty dangerous, pretty toxic to your timelines, to your threads, to whichever. So just make sure that you're not doing that. And when you see friends doing it, maybe talk to them a little bit offline about how that looks. Don't post pictures that might haunt you. I did a presentation similar to this at UMass Amherst when I was in graduate school, and it was on professional development and just how you show up online. And one of the things that we did was I brought up a hashtag that was existing at that time at UMass Amherst, and I brought up a bunch of pictures of students basically making fools of themselves. And I was like, this is going to live here for a little while, and these can be screen capped, these can be saved, like all of this stuff. If you don't want this online, you need to make sure you're not putting it out there. And if friends are posting pictures of you that you're not okay with being out there, talk to them and tell them that you don't want them up either. So just make sure these things don't come back to haunt you, because it's cost a lot of people jobs in the past and could cost you a job someday. Anonymity doesn't really exist, so just make sure that you are putting things out into the world that you're comfortable with, because there are ways of finding out who posts and who shares what. I know that VPNs are pretty successful at blocking some of that stuff, but at the end of the day, not everyone has that access. So just make sure that you're being smart about what you put out there. Don't share content that you don't support. I know that there's a whole thing on Twitter that is retweets don't equal support, or retweets don't mean I endorse. And ultimately, like, don't put that up there if you don't share things that you don't want to just be associated with you. Like, why would you be sharing something you don't endorse? If you share something, make sure that you're having some sort of critique on it. Make sure that you put a little comment as well. Make sure that you are just um, being um, critical about how you share and what you share in certain spaces, so that folks aren't questioning some of your like potential motivations. Now, some things that you can do and things you should do: build a community. Yeah, do that. That's a lot of fun. um, I've built a lot of communities in different spaces. In Instagram, I have my community that's specific for music and tattoos. That's basically what I use that program or that platform for. Facebook is where I do a lot of like closer friends, family sort of stuff. And then Twitter is where I do a lot of my professional connecting and sharing about just the world in general. That's where like my thoughts tend to go, like most people. So I have my communities that are specific for the platforms themselves. I'm connected with some friends on Facebook, but I don't even follow them on Instagram. Like, some people don't put time into certain platforms, so you don't need to be connected with everyone on every platform. Just make sure that you're building the community that you want to have on each one. Develop your voice. I am pretty thankful to have gone to college to be a writer. I developed my voice a lot during college, so I was able to learn pretty easily how to harness what my voice sounds like and put it into the written word, if you will. So using social media has actually been kind of easy for me for that. So basically what this means is um, be able to share in your vernacular, share in your authentic way that gets your point across, get your ideas across, so that you are being as authentic as possible, because that's what we want in social media. We don't want fake people. We want people sharing things in their words as they would any other day of the week. Find a group or a chat. There's a Facebook group. There's an ad right now for how there's a Facebook group for everything. That's true. There really is. I started a Facebook group for people who love professional wrestling in higher education, and it has like 500 people in it, which is awesome. Never thought I'd ever have that many people in general that excited about pro wrestling and higher ed at the same time. But there are groups for any number of things. If you search for a group that you want to look for um, in your field, you'll find it. Like, it's really easy to find. You can get as niche as necessary. There are groups all over. There are Twitter chats, there are Instagram chats, Q&As, things like that. Just make sure you're following hashtags, which is like what you'll see in the bottom corner, that map, hashtag map social. This is a map video, but it's also going to be available for everyone else. But if you want to share, or if you want to learn more, just follow hashtags. Those are great ways, and share hashtags. Those are great ways to make sure that the conversation continues. Be smart about what you put out there. It's really difficult to sometimes parse out what is real and what is fake out there. But just make sure that you're doing your research, you're being critical and being smart about what types of content you're sharing into the world and the kinds of things that you are creating as an original content creator. Um, Employers do look at social media accounts, so just make sure that what you're putting out there and what you're cultivating is not um, something that you are afraid of being out there. Just make sure that it's stuff that you are proud of having on your account. Cultivate your LinkedIn. This is something that I think is pretty important. It's a good way to connect with a lot of people, and it's a great way to get resume support, cover letter support. There are lots of great benefits from having a LinkedIn program that is a LinkedIn account that is very well supported by your community and people. So why should you do any of this? I mean, it's really up to you if you want to. It's not necessarily something that you have to do. It's something that's really benefited me and a lot of my colleagues and a lot of my friends and a lot of folks who just have a brand or have a business or have a band or something that they're just trying to push and they're trying to sell and they're trying to um, propel forward in life. So just if you're wanting to do these things, if you're wanting to be successful in social media, especially for getting jobs, know that it is possible to do so. You can make connections all over the world through social media, and I'm going to share a couple examples now. One of the things that I did a few years ago during my job search for college, or for my job search out of graduate school, sorry, my job search was taking a very long time and I struggled getting a job. So I also struggled making money. And one of the things that I knew that I was good at doing was painting. And so what I ended up doing was made a couple paintings for a couple of people, and then I was like, hey, I could probably do this for a lot more. So I went to one of my Facebook groups that I was connected with on Facebook, um, and what I ended up doing was putting up a post of some of my paintings, and I was like, hey, if you need any sort of paintings done for your office, for a friend, for your home, whichever, let me paint for you. I have nothing else to do right now other than applying for jobs. I would love to paint for you. And within a week, I had 22 commissions just from posting up on that account. I had 22 commissions, and by the end of 8 months, I had painted over 200 paintings for people and earned around $12,000 just painting for people out of my apartment. And that really helped me pay some bills and really helped me stay afloat, pay for my car. Wasn't able to, I didn't have to miss a whole lot of payments, which was really great, because people were really really responding to the art that I was making and to the fact that I was putting myself out there. It was a hustle. It was really hard to maintain all of the commissions throughout those months because there were a lot and I had to be on top of my game. But I was quick and I was smart and I did a lot of really good networking to be able to make that happen. So if you want to make those connections, do something similar. Put yourself out there. I now have paintings all over the country and a few internationally as well. So people have my art all over. Another example was just a few years ago. A few years ago in like 2017, I did a Kickstarter account for project that I was doing where I was making music. It was for an album that was about my father who like lost his life a few years ago, and I wanted to make an album for him, and I wanted to press it on vinyl because I'm a big vinyl collector. And I ended up reaching out to my Instagram community, which is Big Vinyl Collectors, and then my Facebook communities as well, which are really close to me. And I wanted to raise just over $4,000 for the for the project itself, and I ended up raising over 7,000 just by connecting with people and pushing the project and being smart with it and being diligent and being dedicated to the project. And it ended up being one of the most successful things that I think I've ever done. And now people all over the world have my music. There's people in Spain, Belgium, Canada, France, Australia. Those people just have my music now, which is really cool. And I made those connections by just putting myself out there. So if that's something that you're trying to do, something you want to do, talk to me. Maybe I can help. Maybe I can give you some advice. But that is one of the coolest things that I think I've done with social media. A lot of this stuff is proven. There are books about it, especially as social media is becoming more and more and more prevalent in our lives. I have tons of books about social media and how we live in this world together digitally. And so I think it's important that if you want to do more research, there's plenty out there for you. That's all I've got. I hope you really enjoyed this presentation. I always have fun presenting on this because I get to reflect on a lot of the cool stuff that I've done with social media. And if you have questions, write them in the comments. Other than that, I hope you learned something. If you're in the MAP program, go to tinyurl.com/mapwellness, and you'll be able to you'll be able to give feedback about all the stuff you learned. And that's really all I got. Thanks so much. Have a good one.